I am super excited about today for two reasons. Number one, Connie's here too. Hi, Connie. This is the first interview that Kim and I have done together. Kim has been such a rock star in Ignite. You're going to hear all about her journey. I won't give it away, but we've seen each other's faces a million times, but we've never done a formal interview like this. The other reason, who else is here? Brandy's here, Sarah's here, Debbie's here, Kathleen's here. I think I missed a couple of people. Thank you guys for saying hi as you jump in. Sorry if I miss your name. The other reason I'm so excited about Kim's journey is that I relate. One of the themes that you're going to hear come up from Kim is in the caption. I told Kim I just made up the word kitchen phobia. We are not people that identify as any kind of chef that enjoys cooking, being in the kitchen, meal prep. If you were with us on day 2, I didn't sugarcoat around the fact, like, I hate meal prepping. I hate cooking. And I know Kim relates to that story. So if you're a person who is nervous about jumping into Ignite because you're like, how am I going to do this if I hate to cook? Buckle in, because Kim's got you, and I'm here for the amens around this. Hi, Joe. Hi, Eve. Welcome, welcome. All right, Kim, welcome. This is super exciting. Our first interview. I love doing this. So we're going to start off the same question that I've asked every interviewee so far, because I love the varying answers and I love the themes between all these answers. When you think back to pre-Ignite Kim, which at that point, that we're talking about 48 weeks ago, is that accurate?
Year ago. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. When you think back to that, Kim, if you had to summarize in one word where you were in life, what you felt like, what you felt like in your skin, what your life looked like, what would be, I'm going to put you on the spot. What would your one word be to describe your life in that moment?
Well, I'm fortunate because I've listened to the other 3 interviews.
You had a heads up.
but it makes you stop and think. I think the one word that just keeps popping up in my brain is that I was lost. I was completely lost. I didn't know who I was anymore. I had lost all direction in what I was trying to do and what I'd been in the past, and trying to figure that out.
Interesting.
So that would be my word.
Ooh, I like that one. That one made me stop and think. Oh, Simone's watching. Hi, Simone. I love that. It's so, man. So we've heard frustrated. We've heard small. Stuck is such a good one. Or lost. Sorry, lost is such a good one, because I feel like we can all relate to that, right? Especially as we get older, man. Like when we're kids, we got these big dreams. We know the path that we're on. We go to college, like society's laid it out for us, and then at some point we wake up and we're like, what the hell happened? Like, who am I? Where am I going? How did I get here? And what's ahead? That's such a good word. Oh, that made me stop and think. So tell me a little bit about, you learned about, is that accurate? You learned about Ignite through the KC mob. Was it through Dory and that crew?
Dory, yeah, through Dory
Yeah.
and Lee. They had done their first 12 weeks with you, actually, and Dory has been part of my journey prior to Kickstart, and just our friendship and everything. She's like, Kim, you've got to check this out. And Kickstart was getting ready to start, and I was like, okay, well, what do I got to lose? Nothing at this point. And I was very fortunate because my husband was out of town the week that you did Kickstart a year ago, and so I was able to give it my full attention. And that's just not something I typically do. Everybody comes before me, and my kids have always been before me. And so I had an entire week to just sit and listen to you and go back and listen to the recordings and talk to Dory and talk to Leanne and just really give my whole self to what you were talking about. And it was like you were literally talking to me the whole week. It was just like, oh my gosh. I get what she's saying. I get where she's coming from. And, having been an athlete my whole life, and just, like I said, I just kind of got lost in what was going on, and I didn't know what direction to go anymore.
Yeah.
And so
that athlete piece is so relevant too, because when you're an athlete younger in life, that becomes such a part of your self-identity. And when you don't recognize the skin you're in anymore, it's like that makes total sense going along with your word.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that, I was still teaching jazzercise. So I was still emulating what I was always doing,
Yeah.
but I wasn't comfortable with where I was at in my journey, in my skin. Honestly, I didn't have the energy that I needed. I knew I wasn't portraying that to the folks that came into class. And yeah, I just wasn't happy with me at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Carolyn McNulty is watching live and Amy is watching live now. They say hello. So you went through Kickstarter. You hear, I mean, you guys have now, everyone here has met Dory. So we know that she is the walking cheerleader for everybody's success. And I love that you said it felt like it was speaking directly to you. And that's such a testament to just this community, right? Like we have heard so many women feel the same feelings and beat themselves up the same way and think like there's something wrong with me. And that's one of my favorite part of Kickstarts is when you're in this community and you hear we're all struggling with the same thing, right? There's a reason that in our messaging in Kickstart, like I can repeat back to you what you're thinking in your head because I've heard it from thousands of women over the years, and that shows we're not alone in this journey. So you heard all the facts. You had Dory cheering you on. What was holding you back? Like, what were some of your beliefs about what this journey would look like? What you had to give up? What you had to do? What were some of the beliefs floating in your head that made you hesitate?
I've never eaten healthy ever. And I didn't have to until I got married and had kids. And even then I didn't want to do it. I don't like vegetables. So, I mean, there's so many diets that are like, you've got to eat all these fruits and you got to eat all these vegetables. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
I feel you in my soul right now.
And I'm like, how could I sustain this? I wanted something sustainable, but all the programs I'd been on, it was a 6-week or a 3-month or whatever. And then I would just fall right back into the same old habits that I had. And so that, obviously the investment in myself and the time, not just the money, but the time, what was it going to take for me to really buy into all this and give it a good go, rather than just kind of go through the motions. But I was desperate. I mean, I really was desperate. And I had seen the results that both Dory and Leanne were having. And the fact that I had that whole week just to myself to ruminate on your conversations that you were having, because that's literally what I did. I can't tell you how many times I listened to the replays and I went out and jumped on your podcast. And it was just all those things that you kept saying. I don't know if you remember when you signed my book at the This Is Me convention, I had all those words written in the front of it. Just think, shining the light of awareness and consistency and all those things. Those are the things that resonated with me that first week. And you and I had many email conversations about where do we need to go? And the question that you kept posing was, how much accountability do we need? And I needed a lot. And it wasn't because I didn't have a great support system, because I did, but I needed a different type of accountability. And what your program offered wasn't just, this is what you have to do, and didn't explain it. You educated us on how to do that. And that was the difference there.
Love that. I love it. Sheila's watching. Sheila Davenport says, I've known Kim for 40 plus years. You look amazing.
Thank you.
I'm super curious. I didn't plan to ask you this, but now that you're saying that, I'm legitimately curious. When we were I remember those conversations. How much accountability do you need? Like that's the question, right? If you guys were watching day 3, where we talked about how habits are formed through consistency. That's how we coat myelin on our neural connections. It's literally what happens in our brain. So the starting question is always, how much accountability do I need? If being consistent is the key to habits, what's going to keep us consistent? That's accountability. I'm curious, when we had those conversations, and I legitimately don't know the answer to this, did you view accountability as a weakness? Like coming into this, was this I'm an athlete, I shouldn't need this? Or was it more of like, oh, I never thought about that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, and you can even ask Dory, and she'll tell you, I have got my ducks in a row in every other aspect of my life, except for this one. Yeah. And I could not find the key to the consistency and how to retrain my brain and how to eat better. just in general. Because Sheila's on here now. I mean, we went to McDonald's before, every game and ate whatever. And through college, they did the same thing. And then my kids started playing ball, and we were through the drive-through, and we never sat down and ate meals as a family other than at a McDonald's or a Taco Bell or something, because we were constantly going. And so, yeah, the accountability piece was really hard for me. And that's why I knew I needed something more than just somebody to say, this is what you do. I don't want somebody to tell me what I have to eat. That's restriction. And
Yes.
that
Yes.
doesn't work. We all know that.
Mhm.
And so the format of which you present your program with the education piece allowed me to get into my own head a little bit more. And, the weight loss came. I was very fortunate that it came. But the mindset piece has been by far the biggest game changer for me.
Yeah, I want to talk more about the mindset piece. Let me hold on. I'm making a note mindset so I don't, because I want to have a whole, I know there's been so much transformation there for you that, I mean, we could talk for 2 hours about, about the mindset work, but isn't it fascinating? I want to go back to the accountability piece for a second. One of the things that, we talk about, I have a podcast on this. It's one of the coaching videos in Ignite, is the labels that we put on ourselves. Right. And this is such a common thing when you identify as someone who was healthy earlier in life, or someone who was an athlete in, years ago, or still, you're a jazzercise instructor, you're still an athlete. There is this, we call it shoulding on ourselves, SHOULDING. Like, I should know how to do this. I shouldn't need, that's a huge one. I shouldn't need someone to hold me accountable because I'm an athlete or I'm a fitness instructor. And this is, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening right now being like, oh man, like I feel that, because I have that thought all the time. And isn't it a fascinating thing how, says who, right? Who says you shouldn't need that? It's like this arbitrary rule. We talked about this arbitrary rule with Amy today with workouts. We just made up this rule that I shouldn't need that. And then we refuse to get help because we shouldn't. And then 10 years later, we finally get the help and we're like, oh, so that's what I needed 10 years ago, right?
Definitely.
Super
Yes.
fascinating. Okay, so before we get to mindset, I want to talk about the food piece with you, because when you said Taco Bell, I was like, oh, I do love Taco Bell. That was my first honest thought. I had a phone call today with someone, and they told me, the thing I'm worried about with Ignite is that I don't like to eat healthy. I don't like vegetables. And my answer to them was, I'm going to tell you a deep, dark secret right now. I hate vegetables. Like, if someone does not prep a salad for me, I will go months without eating salad, because that is not how I enjoy eating either. And the story I told them was, we literally had someone 2 rounds ago that we had them fill out that list of what are your foods you love, what are your foods you hate. Their favorite foods is a true story: hot dogs, mac and cheese, Captain Crunch. Right? And the answer is cool. Like, we're going to talk about baby steps, more nutritious choices. That wasn't Kim, by the way. We're going to talk about more nutritious choices, and you can still eat that stuff, right? In no universe is what we're doing saying, here are hemp seeds and quinoa and vegetables and grilled chicken. So for someone who, we are spirit animals in our our non-love of vegetables and our love of foods that are not the most nutritious, what has that been like? Did it take a while to trust? Has it been sustainable? What does that feel like for you?
Actually, yes. So I'm going, I just graduated the 4th level. And so I've been at this a year, and I was thinking about this actually just this week, the fact that, my gosh, I've been doing this for a year and I still am doing it. I'm still doing the work. I'm still eating healthier and everything. So it wasn't always easy. And I mean, there are days that, I want to go to Dairy Queen and have a big old Heath Blizzard. And there are days that I do that.
Yep.
And I eat candy often,
Yeah.
but I just fit it into my macros. But at the beginning, kind of like what Amy talked about today earlier, trying to hit your protein goals. I had started working on getting my protein up before before I joined Ignite.
Yeah.
And so my numbers were already up there pretty good when we started. And so I think that helped with my weight loss journey off the get-go, because I dropped my weight pretty quick.
Yeah.
In that first 12 weeks, I was able to hone in on those skills of, playing the game of Tetris and hitting my numbers. But even at the beginning, I focused more on those protein numbers than anything else to make sure that I was getting that in. Um, and I think that comes from your conversations about, we need more protein, and that's where most of us are lacking. And we need that to sustain our muscle development. And having still been teaching jazzercise, I was still just trying to focus on those types of things. But I didn't look outside my realm of what my normal diet contained. I looked at, what do I currently eat that can help me get that protein.
I
And,
like that.
we had talked about supplements, and so I found the Redcon supplement is the one that I use, that you recommend. And whether it be a shake, or I mix it a lot of times with my Greek yogurt or with pudding, that was helpful to get it up there. But as I kind of was transitioning through those first 12 weeks, I eventually got to the point where I didn't need that supplement as much anymore, because I was getting my protein in other foods.
Right.
And it's, my husband laughs. He's like, if you would have told me, 5 years ago, that you would have ever eaten egg whites or canned chicken or sweet potatoes or, things like that, he's like, there's no way. But he experiences it now. So I focused more on the things that I knew I liked, and how could I get my protein from that. So I eat a lot of eggs and a lot of chicken, and I've learned to eat them in different formats, whether it be grilled or on the barbecue or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love, Amy made a comment this afternoon about sticking to the food she knew in the beginning to lock it in. And then now she finds herself being more adventurous with food. Cause
Mhm.
it's like, I don't even know if I like this. I don't know if I can fit this in my macros. Let me just try. And I love what you just said about in the beginning, like even if it's not the most nutritious food and we're aware of that, let's just lock in the skill. You've been eating this way for decades. Another, 4 weeks isn't going to do anything. Let's stick with the foods you know and you love. Let's learn how to eat them in the right proportions. And then we can start to feed off those baby steps, off that momentum, and maybe swap out things here and there for more nutritious choices. But the goal here is never to eat quote unquote clean all the time, right? We still, the thing that makes this sustainable is because you're eating the food you love, avoiding the foods you don't love. So I love that concept of just meet yourself where you are, play the game, lock it in, and using that protein as an anchor is so key. Joe wants to know, have you learned to eat and still enjoy fast food now that you know macros?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Amy alluded to this earlier, and I know you've got Meredith coming on talking about her anchor meals, but at the very beginning, I spent time then, sitting in front of my TV playing with my Fitness Pal, trying to think, how could I fit these in, and just kind of playing with my numbers and saying, okay, I want Pizza Hut, and we have a family dinner with my kids every week. And so a lot of times things are brought in for that, whether it be pizza or um, some type of spaghetti and pasta or, whatever. And so I had to learn to fit those in, because I wasn't going to make myself something different when my family came over. So I did. I figured out how to do that, and I definitely enjoy it. And I struggle a lot of times getting my fat in. And so one of my go-tos is I go and eat a hamburger somewhere, because that gives me my fat. And
And
so,
it-
going to Culver's or McDonald's and eating that works into my macros just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kim just referenced two terms that I think are worth digging into a little bit. Some people love to pre-plan. So when you're going to hear an interview, I think it's tomorrow with Meredith. Meredith, I mentioned her in Amy's interview because Amy and Meredith are two of the biggest planners I've ever met in life. So they will pre-plan out their day of macros. I'm a fan, what I do personally, there's no right, wrong, better, best. It's personality. But I do what Kim just referenced, which is pre-practicing. So if she's sitting on the couch, like zoning out, scrolling through Instagram anyway, the night before, when you're not hungry and there's no emotion behind it, we can kind of play around with certain foods and be like, I wonder what it would be like if I fit a McDonald's hamburger or 2 McDonald's hamburgers into my macros. And it doesn't matter because you're not starving in that moment. You're going to delete it anyway. We're just curious. We're playing a game. And the other term she mentioned, and this is key, we talk a lot about this in the beginning stages of Ignite, is what we call anchor meals. So if Kim knows her kids are coming over on Sunday and they're bringing pizza, in the morning when she wakes up, she's going to put her 2-3 slices of pizza in her app before you even brush your teeth, before the day's got underway. And that way the macros are quote unquote already spent. It's already pulled out the carbs, fat, protein for that pizza. She doesn't have to starve herself all day saying, oh, I can't eat today. I have pizza coming tonight. And it's already accounted for, and you go about your day. So I love that. Yeah. Like if you love fast food, you do not have to give up fast food for this. You just plan for it as your living, breathing example. Susan says, I ate a lot of fast food when I got started. I made it fit. Now I'm cooking at home a lot more. Interesting. So that's a perfect segue, Susan. Have you found, as someone who didn't enjoy more nutritious foods, now that you've given yourself permission, like you can have whatever, you can eat whatever the hell you want and still hit your goals. Do you find that anything in how you eat has shifted?
Definitely. My husband and I actually, we work together on Sunday mornings and we do meal prep. It's
Oh, I
not
love
fancy.
that.
It's definitely not fancy. And my foods are still the same. But we will make up a bunch of scrambled eggs and egg whites, and I will portion those out. We will do a bunch of grilled chicken and portion those out with peppers and onions and whatever. I'll make waffles and add protein powder to them. So again, I'm still keeping with things that I like and that I'm comfortable with, that I enjoy. But I do cook a lot more at home. Yeah.
Wow. Look at
Yeah.
that. When it's
Yeah.
not a
And,
have to.
and thanks to you, early on, you mentioned your love for sweet potatoes.
Mm.
And I was like, I have never in my life eaten a sweet potato. Yuck, yuck. Well, now it's probably my most favorite thing.
Right? I am
Yeah.
so boggled by sweet potatoes that they're a health food. They are so good that I don't understand how they're healthy for us.
Right, exactly. So, and I've learned to, I have a pretty small range of palate. What is Dory laughs at me. She tells me I have a palate of a 3-year-old or something like that. But I have branched out. I will eat anything that Dory puts in front of me. So I will try things. And no, my palate has widened for sure. I do eat more vegetables. I've learned to eat peppers and onions a lot because they're free. Yeah. And so that helps. Green beans, and I'll eat broccoli. Still not a huge veggie fan. I have never in my life eaten a salad, and I never will. Nope, I don't like it, and I don't have to.
Draw your line in this. No, you don't have to. We'll take the peppers and onions.
That's right.
Oh man, isn't it crazy how, I mean, this is so true. We talked about this with emotional eating, right? We were talking about in day 5, if you like to eat late at night, just pre-plan for it. Use it as your anchor meal. Don't start trying to force yourself not to eat late at night. And what often happens is taking the shame and guilt away from that, giving yourself permission. Sometimes we make a different choice. Sometimes it's like, cool, I can absolutely have 2 servings of popcorn and 2 glasses of wine. And maybe I don't want to do that tonight. Maybe I want to spend it somewhere else. And isn't it fascinating that when the conversation becomes, if I want McDonald's, I can have McDonald's. If I never want to eat a vegetable, I don't have to eat a vegetable. And I wonder what it would be like if I fit this in, and just giving ourselves permission, like #bigger life statement. You're just such a living, breathing testament to the power of curiosity.
Yeah. It has been very eye-opening for me to see how to do this and how to fit those foods in. And then when you identify that there are things that you think you want, and you'll plug them in and you'll be like, no, I don't think I want to spend my macros on that. Or you make a mistake and think, oh, it should be fine. I happened to get a hot chocolate at Quick Trip one day, and then when I plugged it in afterwards, I was like, oh my goodness, I will never do that again.
Right? It's shocking to learn what's in some of our food.
It really is. And so you find those other things that will give you the same feeling from eating, a Yasso Greek yogurt bar instead of a Heath Blizzard. It's not the same, but it still suffices what I need.
Yeah. And sometimes we have the Heath Blizzard without shame, guilt, or regret. And then sometimes we choose not to spend them.
Absolutely.
So we started this conversation by saying that you were feeling lost before this, and you made a comment that I want to go back to now about Simone says Rachel does that all the time. Yeah, I will figure out my macros for the night, and then at the end of well, I'll spend the drive home from the gym while Simone's driving doing it, and then I'll get the whole thing done and be like, I don't want to eat that. Delete, delete. Like,
Yeah,
that
I
doesn't
do
sound
that
good.
too.
Kathleen says sweet potato pie is better than pumpkin. I love sweet potato pie, but I do love pumpkin pie too. All right, so we started this conversation saying that you were feeling lost, and you alluded to, yeah, the weight loss is fantastic, the energy is fantastic, but it was the mindset work that we focus on. So especially levels 2, there's always mindset work in everything we do. We cannot do this journey without mindset work. And once we have the logistics of macro tracking down in level 1, we really get to dig in levels 2, 3, 4 to the deeper work. Can you tell us, well, so the final question I'm going to ask you in a little bit is what your word is now. But before you tell us that word, what did that mindset work look for you in that journey from lost to whatever that word is, that undisclosed word is now? What unfolded for you in that process?
Um, I think at first, the first thing that hit me was that I needed to let go of these feelings of guilt of um, not being able to figure out how to do it on my own.
Yeah.
You know, I had I should have this, I should have this, or I should do that. And just giving myself enough grace to say, okay, you know what? It didn't come on overnight. It's not going to go away overnight. I need to figure this out. And I am a recovering perfectionist as well. And podcast number 11, I can't tell you how many times I've listened to it.
I love that you know that just like that.
But uh, yeah, just I think that was the first big one, was that I had to give myself grace to make mistakes and learn from that and move forward. From that, um, identifying what my triggers were that would oftentimes set me off, and just have me binge on something. I mean, it happens still, there, and I've been able to identify a lot of them, and I can feel them coming on, and I'll be like, okay, let's redirect, here, how do we get out of this? And that is a whole different mindset than where I have come from. Because in every other aspect of my life, I seem to have my shit together, and this one has just always challenged me. And so those two, I think, are really big. And the perfectionism piece is huge for me, to let go, and the fact that it doesn't have to be an A paper every time, and
Solid B pluses.
that a B or a C even is okay.
Yep.
And I think, well, I know, I mean, there's no question. My husband was the first to say, you are happier, you don't have as much stress going on. But then when your boss, 6 months in to the program, around Christmas time, we were doing or I guess first of the year, we were doing our annual review, and he's like, you have really come a long ways in the last 6 months. And he
Wow.
goes, you're handling things well, and we're in the middle of the pandemic, and I'm in purchasing, and so supply chain issues have just been crazy. And he's like, you've really handled yourself well. And I know that it's because of the work that I've done with you. And he and I have spoke about your program, and he's been impressed with what the results he's seen from me. So that spoke a lot to me. It's one thing for my husband to see it, and my family and my friends, and Dory, I know, has mentioned to you and lots of people that my energy level is up, and yeah, it's been a game changer. I mean, it really has.
I have heard, this is no exaggeration. Like I would say this if Kim was on the call or not. So we call them the KC mob. There's a lot of Kansas City peeps in this group, because Dory is such a cheerleader, and now you're such a cheerleader, Leanne's such a cheerleader. The amount of people that have said to me, Kim is a different person than she was 48 weeks ago. Like I could not even count how many times I have heard that from anyone who knows you. In some are super close to you, some are on the distance, but I've heard that time and time again. And I wish, this is why man, this came up in someone else's interview. I wish that we did like recorded interviews at the start of Ignite, because I don't know you guys well enough then. It's only, we're talking, but that's the you that's coming into the program. I don't know all the backstory. So
Right.
hearing from people who know you and love you and can say like, this is not the same Kim that was here a year ago. Like what you just said about your boss, that gave me goosebumps. The same way that the stranger at Amy's work or the coworker at Amy's work coming up to her saying, you seem really good. Like that's the stuff. These people don't know what's going on in your life, right? They're not with you every single day, but they feel that energy, and that has nothing to do with weight loss. That's incredible. So you started out feeling lost, a lot of shooting on ourselves, did the mindset work, got control of your nutrition. What's Kim's word now?
I bet you could guess. I've found myself again.
Yeah. Yeah. Lost and found.
I was lost and I'm found now. And I knew that seems really silly, but that's literally how I feel.
Yeah.
Because I know where I was, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. I was confident. I knew what I wanted. I had everything lined out. And then, just life happens, and you get married and you have kids, or whatever the case may be, and your priorities change. But then I just hit this spell that I don't know what happened. I really don't. Things just didn't go the way that I meant for them to go,
Yeah.
and that's no fault of anybody's but mine, or not.
Life. That's what
It's
happens
just
in life if you're not,
exactly.
know.
And I wish that I would have had your program 30 years ago. I mean, because I would definitely have done a lot of things different. But I'm thrilled that I found it a year ago, because it has definitely been life changing. And I have found myself again. I'm a different person than I was a year ago, for sure.
That makes my heart so happy. And isn't it, I mean, God, like I love this community because we need to hear that we're not alone in that, right? We've heard from Dory who got emotional talking about her son being like, Mom, your entire life was us. Like it's time for you. Right. Sherry had the same thing. She's just giving to her little kids and she loses herself. For Amy, it was work. Next week we'll hear from Meredith, it was work. Leanne, I think, is a combination of work and family, just like you. And this is what happens if we don't know this stuff. Of course that's what's going to happen. If we're not conscious of this stuff, of course that's how society is designed. And what you just said is the number one thing we hear time and time again. Like, I wish I'd known this 20 years ago. And it is the weight loss part, but it's not that, right? It's because when you step back into your power, all the other things that start changing from that puts you on a completely different trajectory in life. It's for some people never had themselves. Some people just lived a life doing what they're supposed to do. So this is like, I finally found myself. For someone like you, who you loved who you were back then, you just got a little lost. It brings you back to exactly who you wanted to be. And that is, we have the tools, but you got to put them to use. Like you have just been such an example of what consistency, of what dedication looks like, and the results speak for themselves. So I'm going to put you in the coach's chair for a second. Joe says, woohoo, go KC. You're not alone. There's a lot of KC group peeps in here. I'm going to put you in the coach's chair for a second. Let's say I'm someone who's been through Kickstart for the week, and we're on a call right now. And I'm saying to you, Kim, I feel lost, right? Like I don't recognize myself. I know who I used to be. I know who I want to be. Somewhere along the line, I just got mixed up and I don't know where I am. But at this stage in life, I'm not 20 anymore. I've got a mortgage. I've got kids. I've got a family. I've got a career. I don't have a lot of free time. I'm afraid to do this for me. Both, there's an investment. It's not a little investment. There's as you said, the time is probably even the bigger thing. There's a time investment, and I have a family to think about. What do you say to that person?
I would
again.
I I would tell them that they really need to reflect on what they want out of their life, and that this would be the best decision that they could ever make for themselves, because they will definitely show up for everyone else as a better person and be a better person for themselves. And they would be able to live their best life.
I love that. I love that. And I mean, you're proof of that. The fact that your husband can say to you, like, this is the happiest I've seen you. The fact that your boss can say you're doing a really good job. Like, this is not about you, right? Was it selfish of you to do this for yourself? I don't think so. When your boss and your husband are feeling the effects of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not just them. I mean, just everybody around you can recognize the changes that they see in you. The weight loss is just a bonus, honestly. I mean, it really is. It's math and science, and it works if you put in the work. I think that's key, is that you've got to be ready to put the work in. But that mindset piece of it's retraining your brain, Rachel. I mean, you show us how to do that, and we take baby steps, and it happens.
I love that you just said that. I mean, how many times can I scream from the rooftops, the weight loss is a given. It's math and science. Like, if you put the work in, it's going to work. But to hear from someone who lived it, who can say, yeah, that's a bonus. Like, that's not, you think it's a weight loss program. It's not. Like, we're going to retrain your brain. And of course, you're going to lose weight along the way when you do the work. I freaking love that.